Hey folks, I'm Dennis and Bertram, co-founder and CEO of tally.xyz. And this episode is going to be a little different. I'm just going to talk to you kind of off the cuff personally about what I am hoping for from 2026. 2025 was a pretty extraordinary year in a lot of different ways. And it started out with a lot of hope. And I think right now the industry in general is maybe going through a little bit of both a reckoning and both a kind of struggle to accept what winning looks like and how to win properly. And I think it's just worth, musing a little bit on like what happened in 2025 and what I hope 2026 is going to bring, right? Because 2025 was a huge year for crypto, really, truly, truly, truly enormous. And we can't really undersell that in any way, right? It was the year that basically crypto became legitimate, right? And that is so exciting, right? Because for years, building under the Gensler era of just like this lawfare and this just like ridiculous attacks on crypto. If you remember, Warren's anti-crypto army, you had this experience of like living in a country where you had your politicians using these words of violence, an anti-crypto army. You were these developers who are building and they're going to send the military after you for just building things, for free speech, for writing code, right? And, that was very difficult for the industry. That was very difficult for us at Tally. It was very difficult for me personally. As some of you may know, I had been subpoenaed by the SEC for some work I did on an NFT project, right? And, that cost thousands of dollars to deal with and really like sapped my enthusiasm about doing things in NFTs. And I've been working in NFTs since 2013, right? So, stuff like that was just like enormously demotivating and really hard for teams. And then you saw the government sort of like sanctioning meme coins, which really did a lot to be sort of extractive in the ecosystem and sort of like, again, besmirch our good name and what we're actually trying to build. And, for myself and my co-founder, Rath, it was a struggle, right? Like many times we talked about like, well, to build in America, is that possible, right? We're both, live in New York. We have families. We're based here. We're proud of America. We're proud of New York. We want to build our company here. And, we often would have discussions about, do we have to leave the United States? Do we have to go and do this somewhere else? And, that was just shitty, right? That just frankly really sucked. And to have that cloud, that like just oppressiveness just like be lifted from you in this past year has been incredible, right? And of course there's a lot of other things going on in the industry which is been kind of a reckoning, which is going to be a little bit difficult to deal with, right? Like, of course, like Ethereum as like a financial bet hasn't really performed very well. There's a lot of questions around the L2 thesis. There's a huge, in my mind personally, a big question around like the application layer, right? We over invested in infrastructure. We have so much infrastructure. Where are the apps? Where are the things that like people actually use in crypto? But I think it's useful to mention that like, again, 2025 was great for crypto. It was stellar. It was incredible, right? Like the Genius Act passed in July, right? That's the first federal crypto legislation that's ever been signed into law. And stable coins now have real rules, right? 100% reserve backing, monthly disclosures, clear licensing paths, right? And this is all not a small thing, right? Like this is a transformative foundation. And we've seen the result of what's happened because of that, right? Like stable coin usage has exploded. Traditional businesses building on top of stablecoins has exploded. And this is a real example of like what clear regulation gives us. And this is why we so critically need the market structure bill, right? Because, the SEC under Chair Paul Atkins has been completely transformative, right? And, the crypto task force led by Commissioner Hester Peirce, has also just been really incredible, right? Hester Peirce has run roundtables on everything from custody to DeFi tokenization. We had a chance to attend the SEC and CFTC harmonization roundtable. We've had a chance to speak with Commissioner Peirce. We're just so excited to see what's going on. It's not enough, right? Like what do we need in 2026 is we need to actually finish the job. We need Congress to come together, give us a market structure bill so that we can see the level of innovation that we've seen in stablecoins play out also in all the other aspects of crypto, right? We need this, and we need that 2026 be the year that we go from accepting crypto or allowing crypto, so the United States competing for it, right? Like we should be the center of the financial world and crypto, right? We believe that very deeply. We think that's very important. But obviously crypto is very meaningful to many people in many other parts of the world. But again, we're Americans. We live in the United States. We live in New York City. We want clear regulations, clear rules that allow us to build with clarity, right? We need that. We need to know what can be listed where, who regulates what the path is from startup token to network token, right? And, we've seen some excellent things, right? Uniswap, the unification proposal, right? All the work that all the folks over at Cowrie and Miles Jennings and, A16Z did with like Duna, the, decentralized, unincorporated nonprofit association out of Wyoming. That's also transformative. That gives folks who participate in decentralized organizations legal liability protection for private plaintiff lawsuits, because now that we have this clarity, or the start of clarity from the government, or at least this sense that we aren't actually targets, we're not walking around with targets on our back, we do have to address private plaintiff lawsuits, and that's what the Duna does, right? And the Duna does it very well. It's just the start. I think we'll expect to see many more states sort of competing in the Duna space as we go forward, and that's exciting to see, right? And big props up to Hayden for the unification proposal and moving Uniswap forward in a way that aligns the equity and token discussion, which is going on, of course, right now in Aave and in other communities. There's a lot of open questions that hopefully we're going to see addressed in 2026. And, hopefully at Tally, our vision is to help make this very possible, make it doable, make it practical, make it regulated, make it clear, right? So we are building out all this tooling, but we need to work in partnership with the government, right? We need this clear regulation, right? So that's what 2025 is kind of about. 2026, I'm really looking for that regulatory clarity. I think, talking about some other challenges, I think that, the L2 space is going through a lot of challenges right now. I think we started 2025 or ended 2024 really at this just explosion of L2s, just an enormous number of L2s. And the vision was really clear. Like we were just going to scale Ethereum, and we scaled Ethereum, right? Like block space is effectively free now. Right? Like there is no excuse to not be on chain when it comes to cost. Now, there's a lot of costs in building on Web3 that are different, things like indexing costs and off-chain data costs and stuff like that. But transaction like block space is trivially cheap now. And you see teams like Coinbase and Arbitrum really taking advantage of that and building incredible stuff on top of it, which is great, but we still actually are missing the wider ecosystem of apps, the app layer. And part of this comes from the fact that there was such a disproportionate return on investment for infrastructure plays with tokens that we got an ecosystem of funding for years of venture capital that only funded infrastructure, right? And didn't take a leap on apps, which I understand, right? Crypto is already a leverage bet, infrastructure is a leverage bet, apps are like a leverage bet on a leverage bet on a leverage bet. Like you not only have to have a good idea that sticks, find product market fit, but then you actually need all this infrastructure to make it possible and make it work, right? You needed things like on-ramps, you needed people to actually use crypto. And, now when we look across the ecosystem, we see that we've underinvested in apps, in the app layer, right? Something that someone said to me recently was that maybe actually distributed ledger technology was only really ever good for payments. Because today, the things that have product market fit in crypto are speculation, payments, and capital formation. At the moment, it looks like maybe that's all we're going to get, right? And that does not make me happy, right? Like Tally really works in the world of capital formation, right? This is our focus. So that is exciting for our business, but it's not exciting for me personally in the vision of what the ecosystem is going to look like. We need more than that, right? It's got to be more than that. We need these apps. We need people to build fun things, useful things. And it's fine if you abstract away crypto, that people don't know that it's crypto. But when they abstract away crypto, it also means that we are going to have our own sort of soul searching moment about what the community of crypto looks like. Because for many years, the reason why you use these applications is because they were crypto applications. If we move into a world where you don't even know their applications or crypto applications, then you really have to build applications that people want. And that's hard, right? That's the challenging piece. But we see that happening with teams like Shopify and Stripe and Circle and stablecoins and all these different folks that are building, neobanks, all these things that are building an abstraction layer on top of the crypto rails. But again, that's payments. I would like to see social networks at work. Like, why did none of the social networks work? Well, I think there's a lot of reasons behind that, but we end out the year with like Farcaster, basically becoming a wallet, right? And where are the social media apps on crypto? And they haven't worked. Like props to FriendTech for doing something that was really exciting. It didn't work out, but props to people trying things. And I think AI has a little bit sucked a little bit about the momentum and the excitement out of things. But I think it's important that in 2026, we continue to build. Okay, I'll run through a couple of the other things I'm looking for so I don't hold you on too long in this video. I want to see scaling revenue on chain, right? Real businesses, right? And I think this is important because right now, people have been building things that, based on token emissions or points programs or airdrop farming disguised as community building, but we want revenue. We want businesses that charge revenue. And I think Ethereum spent way too long trying to like kind of nuke anyone being able to have a business by making everything some sort of like public good. And that has been a negative experience because I think a lot of the public goods besides Ethereum haven't really fared very well. But they haven't fared very well because there isn't a structural market mechanism to do the proper investment to search for product market fit, because there's no revenue at the end of it. And you can't operate corporations without revenue, right? These things have to make money. And so what I'm looking forward to in 2026 is more revenue organizations and organizations leaning into charging users for using it, right? And this is important because, Gmail is free, Google is free because you are the product. They are monetizing you. In crypto, you pay for stuff so that you don't get monetized, right? And that's important. I am willing to pay to use something, so I'm not the fucking product, right? Like I don't want to be the product, right? I don't want my data to be the product, right? And so I think we need to step back from this like, oh, free as in free, and go into building businesses. I'm providing you value. This service provides you value. You should pay for it. It should be some reasonable fee, of course, but these protocols need to generate revenue. They need to be real businesses. Otherwise, we're going to have to all go home eventually because the music is going to stop. And in fact, I would argue that, especially when you look at the VC investment market, the music has stopped, right? Like investments have gone down dramatically. They've focused tremendously around very large particular winners. And that's not net positive, right? And then of course that there's a big structural thing, a larger ecosystem thing going on there, but that's something to note. Again, I'm gonna rush through the other things here. Ethereum, I want to see more Ethereum, right? Like I've been really excited to see the updates that the Ethereum Foundation has made. They've really listened to the community. They got their act together. I'm excited to see what Ethereum has because I still love building on Ethereum. It's fun to build on. It's fun to write smart contracts. It's fun to build an ecosystem that's so deep, right? You can do anything here. So I want to see more coming from the Ethereum Foundation in 2026. I want to see more coming from the Ethereum ecosystem in 2026. And, props to all the other ecosystems as well, right? But I'm a little bit of an ETH maxi, although, that has hurt me financially, of course. But I want to see more happening there. I want to see more innovation in general, right? And yes, there are alt L1s, and I'm excited for them too. Things like Monad, Mega ETH, Kanto, Tempo, all these different things going on. I'm excited for them too. I'm excited in particular for these ultra fast EVM chains, right? Like what can we build when things are just like really freaking fast? I'm super excited about that. I'm excited about a lot of things happening in the different ecosystems we work with, the zkSync, Providium, Arbitrum, all these sort of things. There are a lot of teams that we work with. I'm sorry I'm not naming everyone, but I'm excited for what people are building and keeping really the spirit alive. And the final thing before I run is privacy. For many years, I gave up on privacy. I acknowledge it. I felt like people didn't care and it wasn't important anymore. The government already knew everything about you, so fuck it. I was wrong. I was wrong, and I missed the boat on the Zcash trade and all that. But privacy is real and it is critical, and it's probably going to be the most important thing because now with LLMs and AI, privacy is super crazy important because ChatGPT literally knows everything about you, right? And now that we have crypto and everything about you for crypto, via crypto, we need private crypto, right? We need private blockchains and we need to build an entirely new category. So privacy is probably one of the things I'm most excited about. I don't know yet how to get deeper involved or how to like use it in a way that works, but it's something that's very deeply on my mind. So this has been my end of the year video. I'm looking forward to doing a lot more videos in the New Year's. I got to run. I actually have a call that I booked I forgot about, so I got to get to that. But it has been so excited building alongside all of you. I know that maybe it's feeling a little bit like in the doldrums right now, but keep the spirit up. We are doing great things here on the ecosystem. tally.xyz is just really exciting. We're building so many cool stuff. If you are looking to launch a protocol, launch a token in 2026, come talk to us. We're building the best ICO platform in the industry, along with the best suite of tools for operating corporations on chain. Please reach out. Other than that, have a lovely New Year's. Enjoy the rest of 2025, however much left of it there is. And I will see you in 2026, or as I love to say every time this year, I will see you next year.